Well, welcome to our Links family and to all our guests this morning. Dennis Darville here, along with my good friend of many years, colleague, our CEO, Jeffrey Cranford. Good to see you again.
You too, DD.
We're going to spend the next 6 weeks looking at the fundamentals, not only the fundamentals of golf, but the fundamentals of the Christian faith. Fundamentals, by definition, are not things you leave behind. They're things that you build upon. And so today we're just going to talk about that, and then for the subsequent 5 weeks, we're going to spend our time looking at our acrostic. And as you know, you probably already know this, but we wanted to do a bit of a reboot at the beginning of the year to remind everyone, including ourselves, what Links is all about. Links. And so we'll be talking about that over the next few weeks. So Jeffrey, with all that in mind, you know a lot better than I do regarding the fundamentals, not only of the faith, but the fundamentals of the game of golf, the swing. Talk to us about that a bit.
Well, first of all, I can tell you, nobody likes fundamentals. I mean, I watched a lot of backswings in my day. I was a director of instruction at the place called the Maroon Creek Club in Aspen for 8 or 9 years. And everybody, like anything they want to hit it 20 yards farther today in the next 5 minutes. Just like it's why people sell, 6-minute ab commercials and things, and 5-minute ab sells more than 6-minute ab. We want it today, we want it fast, and yet the last thing that people want are really fundamentals. It's just kind of monotonous, it's boring, it can be tedious in some people's minds, but I think the greats of the game have absolutely lived into fundamentals. I'll give you a funny story. There was, I think it was Paul Azinger, if I had this correct, was walking the range one day and he saw Vijay Singh, who's known to be the guy that practices till dark, the last guy off the range, all his entire career. And Vijay looked at Paul and he goes, "Hey, Paul, what are you working on?" Paul says, "I'm working on this." And he told him, and then Vijay said something to the effect of, and then Paul said, "Well, what are you working on?" He says, "Well, I'm working on the one thing for the last 6 years, just one thing, one little fundamental he's working on for 6 years." And that's astonishing to people. A little grip change. I remember Bernard Langer said he changed his grip 1/16 of an inch. It took him almost 30, 40 years to make a grip change. He went little by little. Only a German could think in those kinds of terms, but fundamentals are everything.
Essential.
Everything.
Absolutely essential. I'm reminded in Matthew 5, 6, and 7, greatest sermon ever preached, the Sermon on the Mount by our Savior, our King. He ends that after doing all his teaching, and he said, if you hear these words and do them, you're like a man who's building on a rock.
That's right.
It's foundational. It's solid. Winds and rains are going to come, storms are going to come, but you're going to stand. But if you hear the words of the gospel and don't do them, you're like building something on a sand. And so
that's exactly right.
It's very important to us to talk about fundamentals and the foundations of the faith. And
well, let's think about this, Dennis. So what are fundamentals in golf swing? You've got grip, you've got posture, you've got alignment, you've got swing plane, you've got a little bit of leverage. Things like that are fundamental to being able to repeat a golf swing. Now you apply that spiritual, even take the grip, Dennis. I mean, we've got to get it in the fingers. Why? And you get a little hook here because the club lags. And I don't have time to explain all that. I've just said you need to get a formed grip and go and practice this sitting at your office, Mr. Smith, and just do this for an hour a day, 2 hours a day. You're on a phone call, grip this, grip it, and get used to doing that to where you own it. Tour players always talking about owning it. Well, the same thing is in the spiritual life. And so I think of Paul's letter to the Colossians, in Colossians chapter 2, Dennis, where it says in verse 6, it says, "As you therefore have received Jesus as the Lord," meaning the Master, the King, "so walk in Him." How do you do that? Fundamentally, having been firmly rooted and now being built up in Him, established in your faith, just as you were instructed. You've got to be instructed in fundamentals. And then it goes on and says, "and overflowing with gratitude." We're not usually grateful for fundamentals, but fundamentals are everything in terms of your spiritual life. Guys want to follow and do things for the Lord, they don't know the Word. Guys want to do this, they're not in prayer. Their marriage is in shambles. Fundamentally, we have to get people, and that's what discipleship is, which we'll talk about in the next few weeks in terms of the integration of the reign of Christ. So.
So I'm looking forward to the next 5 Fridays together as we look at the fundamentals of golf, but we also look at the fundamentals, more importantly, of the Christian faith and what that looks like. So we're glad that you're with us. Bless you. We'll see you next Friday.